Wolfpack Nation, we are back again with part 2 of this banger of an episode here. So we are doing our Pack 9 preview with Greg Leg, Leighton Smith here, and then obviously two guys need no introduction, Justin Cooke and Kent Klyman here. So if you haven't checked out part 1 yet, make sure to do that first and foremost. As again, I mean, I'm sure if you probably watch this episode, you'd be like, well, what about this? What about that? What about, what about that? And it's like, well, that was in part 1. So make sure to check that out first and then come right back at here and definitely buckle up for this here. As again, we are diving all the way through in terms of talking lineup, predictions, talking, we're going to talk a little bit more here in terms of who we expect, to really, kind of surprise NC State fans this year. And also talk about the schedule a little bit as well and AC overall. So we kind of picked up, and I think, we definitely talked about, obviously the defensive woes in terms of, with errors, which was definitely a big thing for sure. But offensively, I think the only thing which really kind of stood out to me was speed, base stealing. I felt like that we were very limited to pretty much JT Jarrett and Devontae Brown for the most part. Now, again, we talked about, Pololi, how he was solid, but I mean, he only stole 5 times, or attempted 5 times. So just, you didn't have a lot of guys where any one of them could, like you had multiple guys that could make the move and steal the base. Like it was pretty much either JT Jarrett or Devontae Brown. So, but yeah, so kind of go through. So what was the guy again, Greg or Justin, that you said that clocked in faster than Trey Turner, the freshman?
That was Gupton.
Yeah. So I think that's first of all, that's a crazy stat. If you outclock Trey Turner, that's pretty good. So I definitely like to hear that. But what are some other guys that we were kind of mentioning there at the end that we feel like could really step up, give us the extra speed, or that we, I think, could definitely use this season?
Peyton Green was one guy. Peyton Green can steal bases. I know he's been doing really well in preseason with stolen bases. Noah Souls can steal bases. Trying to think who else. Pretty much the second basemen have speed.
Gruber's got some decent speed too.
I saw Morse steal a couple bags last year.
Yep. Yeah. And again, too, I mean, it was just more of just going into last season. You had a lot of question marks. Not to say that they couldn't do it, but just question marks. So, but it's funny, Justin. I remember, I can't remember when it was. It was early in the season that you and I were talking, and you had mentioned that number 47 was a guy to watch out for. Like, he's a guy that can absolutely shock the world last season. He definitely did. So much so that he decided to, go for a change of scenery, head on over to LSU. But, just saying. So anyway, so Justin, if you kind of had to, pick, a guy that, just watch out, State fans are not really talking about right now, but watch out. Who would you kind of pinpoint right now?
Well, on the pitching side, let me make sure I say the name right. So give me one sec. Schaefer, who's a freshman pitcher, he throws in like the high 90s.
Wow.
And
nice.
He's supposed to go up to Cape Cod League this summer. And then you got another kid that played with Serrano and a couple other guys at Pro 5 last year. Dom is his first name. I can't remember how you say the last name, but he's supposed to go up to Cape Cod as well. He's a pretty good pitcher as well. On the position player wise,
Don Fritton. Fritton.
Yes.
Fritton. Yeah. Go ahead.
On the position player wise, Serrano, I would say Eli Serrano. He's a good one. He's 6'7" first baseman.
Wow. That's a tall drink of water.
He's got potential to be really good too.
Wow.
And then you got other infield wise, you got basically Barkett, who I was mentioning earlier. He's got very good potential.
Sweet.
Very good, and a baseball background too. So I mean, he's a good one too. So I mean, some of these freshmen I think are going to be better than what people are talking about. And then, like the transfer wise, like we said, Card Trice earlier. Card Trice is a good one. Rio's a good one. I mean, the transfer portal, I think we did very good. And then the two Davidson kids,
we killed it.
Those two guys are definitely going to play a lot this year, and they're going to have a lot of stolen bases, I think, this year too.
What? Go ahead, Greg.
No, I say, I think we ended up in like the top 20 for transfer portal pickups nationally. It might have even been as high as 15. I don't remember the number, but it was definitely top 20. And then, like we had talked about earlier, a consensus top 25 incoming freshman class, 10 new freshmen, with the highest one we rated out at 18. And was it Perfect Game? Is that the right publication? Yeah.
That's the main one.
So,
And I forgot another kid I forgot to mention too. We got a walk-on from the club team. That's a pitcher. His first name is Zach. I've heard good things about him, so we'll see how that goes. But I think he's going to be a good arm out of the pen.
Fascinating.
I think the one thing, with all of the transfers, we did get a couple of position players, but you could tell that Coach Avent and the rest of the staff knew that pitching needed to be improved, and that's what they really focused on. And then to a lesser degree, the kid from Texas A&M, and his name skips me for the moment. His bat may not be as solid, but he's really good on the defensive end. So they made sure that they shored up those two areas of concern from last year. So I think you'll see a drastic improvement. And just by not giving up as many runs, that means you don't have to score as many, right? Basic math would tell you. So if you are losing some of that offensive punch that, we think that we may be losing, again, we're doing this, and it's February 8th. But come April, our offense may be better than we thought it was going to be, right? Maybe, some of these guys really step up and there isn't the drop-off that many think we might have. But if you're shoring up the pitching and defense, you're definitely giving yourself a better chance to win ball games.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. So let me ask this, Kent, really two things for pitching side. So the first thing, obviously talk a little bit about Sam, who, correct me if I'm wrong, but he had a back injury. I don't know if it was what was more specific about it, but, definitely, back injuries are never, something to, first of all, mess around about, but it's also too very, just because, back injuries can kind of build upon themselves. So, I think it was the Clemson series. They tried to bring him back, see how he felt. Sam said, no, it's not going. And I think, just for the sake of Sam's career and also to, whether he decided to go pro or whether he decided to come back, just for his longevity purposes, really just make sure that, we can heal him out. And because if I'm not mistaken too, from what I've heard, we may not still even see Sam and Logan until like a month from now, even as well. Apparently am I wrong on that? I heard that. I could be wrong.
I don't know
Justin?
about that. I don't know about
cool.
that.
All right, cool.
I mean, Sam's been pitching in Sam pitched in the inter squad game, I believe. Was it not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before, right?
Yeah.
Right, Justin.
You're good. Yeah, he pitched last Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's good. I'm love to hear that. But I mean,
so did Matt and Whitaker. From what I've been
hearing. Whitaker. Yeah. Right.
So.
Yeah. So kind of talk to me, Ken. So I mean, for Sam, like, being a pitcher yourself, with a back injury, like, how big of is that in terms of for your psyche per se? Because I mean, obviously, back is something that obviously is very important. A lot of rotation on it, a lot of stress on it for sure. So if you're kind of in Sam's shoes dealing with that back injury and knowing that you just went through all that, what's your kind of mindset heading into this season?
Well, I think it just you have to, take it week by week and start by start. And whether he starts in the pen at the beginning of the year, kind of less of a load for him, or if he's good to go, he can go, maybe Sunday and you only start him for 4 or 5 innings, especially if the Friday and Saturday guy went a solid 6 or 7, then you don't have to ride him as long. I think it's just going to kind of be a feel basis because, like you said, a back can be nagging. It can be more than what it was that last season. It could be something that is bothering him throughout the year, and as he gets back into the swing of things, pitching week by week, it might come back up. You never know. So I think it's just kind of your workouts, especially as a starter, you're working out 3 times a week in between starts. So you're working out. Sam was throwing on Fridays. So let's say Saturday you're doing upper body lift, Sunday you're doing a lower body lift, and then you do a full body lift in the middle of the week. So I think, Gabe's a great strength coach. I think he's going to have to kind of monitor that maybe. But that's also speculation because I was down there twice in the fall. I talked to Sam. I was over at his house hanging out for a couple football games, and he said he was doing well. He was progressing and stuff. So I'm hoping he's healthy because obviously we all know how big of a piece he is to the puzzle. Him and Matt Willitson both. Matt just having hip labrum surgery. That's not something that is easy to bounce back from. But I've heard he's progressing well also. So I think both of those guys are. I wouldn't say they're keys because, like we talked about, the transfer portal was big pitching wise. So, but those guys will obviously bolster our rotation and our pitching staff in general if they're both healthy for the entire season. So it'll be interesting to see. And I think both guys are not gonna just throw on the first weekend and then be like, no, I gotta shut it down. I like you said, I think they're gonna throw because they want to throw every single week. They're not gonna just take it one start a month or something like that. They're gonna throw as much as they possibly can.
Mm-hmm. And just something to keep in mind, and I know we'll talk schedule here in a little bit. Your first 14 games are out of conference, and so you don't have to rush them back. The every game can be a tough matchup, but looking at the early schedule, it's pretty favorable. So yes, you want to bank those wins because those are going to help you make the tournament, but I think it's going to be a long season. You still have like 50 some games after those 14 that you're going to need your horses for. So I know the staff will take care of those guys and make sure that they're ready before they're just throwing them out there.
Yeah, agreed. And then the second
we're at home too. We're at home. It looks like for all but 2 games. So it'll be nice too. They won't have to ride on a bus or catch a flight anywhere, that puts them in jeopardy, if it's a long flight or anything, stuff like that. They have the comfortability of knowing that they're at home. They get to sleep in their own bed. They don't have to worry about other external factors. They can just worry about pitching.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, especially too, I mean, the 2 away games during that stretch is Coastal Carolina and UNCG, which I'm sure both are day trips. So too, even and UNCG, which is basically going to be Doak Field North. I mean, I know that's what it was last year when my wife and I went. It was all red. Might as well. I mean, there was probably a couple of UNCG fans there that were probably just the parents, but there was a lot of state fans there. And I remember it was like a midweek, like 2 or 3 o'clock game. Like it was a weird time, but yeah, there was still a lot of people there. So I'm like, don't you all like work? I'm like, and of course I know you could say the same thing about me, but I'm in sales. So, it's kind of not necessarily said in terms of times, but anyway. But the other question, which I wanted to ask, obviously losing Chris Villeman, is definitely, that's a big piece for sure. I mean, he was a guy that could do it all. Could start, could relieve, could close, whatever you name it, he could do it, and he could do it well. What's kind of going into the season? Is it more of that you're like, do you kind of go into a season saying like, this is going to be our guy, or do you like maybe in this scenario kind of try out a couple of guys and see how it goes? Because again, obviously I'm not really a big baseball guy, but I'm not sure like what kind of says, okay, you're going to be a closer, like, is it like a mindset thing? Is it like, what is it that makes it like, that makes you go from a pitcher to a closer, if that makes sense, Kent?
I think the biggest thing is you kind of just, especially for the younger guys, it's going to be an adjustment, obviously, from, playing 2 games a week to at the beginning of the year, you're playing 5. So I think that'll be the biggest thing. And like you said, you can go into the year having an idea of that's going to be our guy, that's going to be our setup guy, it's going to be our closer, like you talked about. But it's just going to be, guys get into rhythms in pitching just like they do in hitting. So, if you throw a guy out in a situation and he doesn't do well and, he gives up a couple runs, walks a couple guys or whatever, early on, it's better to, experiment with that than obviously in conference play. And so I think you'll probably see with a lot of the newer guys, that they're going to be put into different spots. Maybe some will be tougher spots than others, but they're going to give a lot of different guys shots early in the year. And I think it'll just be an adjustment. And, some of the transfers that we brought in, I know Britton was lights out from what I saw on the West Coast and in his 2 years there. And he might end up being, a guy that could be a long relief guy. He might be a closer. I've heard, there's a potential where if he's able to go an extended amount of innings, he could be, a midweek guy. It just kind of depends. I think you try all those things, like we said, in a non-conference and kind of go from there.
Yeah. Okay.
I just remember thinking back to the College World Series when you had Evans and Villeman, and like if you were in the lead in the 6 or 7 inning, the game was over. I mean, we were going to lock it down, and so I think that's and Kent brought it up in the first episode. By probably the first part of the ACC schedule, you'll have your guys figured out by then. I mean, you'll have some interchangeables here and there based on injury and performance, but you're going to have them locked down. And you could really tell, because I think in that Magic 21 season, I don't think we changed our lineup for like 40 or 50 games straight. I mean, he rolled the same dudes out every game. So I think if you have that kind of dependability, you're going to have a solid roster in a great potential season.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think bullpen wise, I mean, you gotta have Rio. He can, like Kent said, he can do it all. I mean, start, bullpen, close. I mean, and then you got Schaefer, who I mentioned earlier. The kid's probably gonna be out of the bullpen probably to start with. Then you got the PJ from Clemson, and then you got Creed Watkins, the transfer from Oklahoma. He throws nasty stuff once his command stuff works very good. He throws very hard.
And we didn't even mention too, but also too, that I think honestly probably one of our biggest pitching transfers we got. I don't know if you mentioned yet, but the guy from Oregon.
Rio.
That's Rio. Okay, that's Rio.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Here's the one thing that we're not even talking about. We're talking about all these transfers. We got a lot of kids that were freshmen last year that are going to be sophomores this year that you hope take that next step. And some of them had minimal appearances last year. But by all accounts, they're doing really great, in fall ball and in spring training. Yeah. So let's not sleep on those guys. Sure. There's a lot out there that that I think honestly we're going to be a much better team, and I think it's going to be a deeper team, and that we have more options. I think that's the big thing is we have a lot more options that we didn't have last year.
Yeah, I think one couple guys that stand out to me, especially Carson Kelly. I mean, that guy, he's kind of like Sam in the fact that he throws from a little bit lower slot, but he can also throw a couple from over top, kind of keep hitters off balance. I know Tristan Sipple, he broke his ankle halfway through the year last year, but that's a lefty out of the pen. That's low 90s with good fastball. A couple other guys. Who was another guy I was looking at? I know Justin talked about Justin Lawson. I love him in that late inning role. He's a guy. He's bulldog. I think on the mound. I think he's going to throw a lot of meaningful innings in big spots. That he's going to be that guy. And then who was the other guy that I was looking at?
While you're figuring that, go ahead.
No, the last guy, my guy John Moralia. He hasn't thrown as much as I would love for him to throw. I love him. He's one of my guys. He was everyone called him my twin when I was a fifth year and he was a freshman. I'm hoping I haven't seen him throw obviously, but I'm hoping that he's really been able to get out there and be successful because I think he brings a lot to the table with his arm slot. His off speed is nasty. If he's able to throw strikes, I think he's going to be able to get in there too.
Yeah, and the one thing I was going to add that I don't have the exact number, but I know it's more than you would expect. We have a lot of left-handed pitchers. And that's that can't be unsaid enough that a lefty is like gold. Like you want to hoard all those guys. So that's something that I really like because that was one thing that we didn't have really last year was a lot of left-handed pitchers that you could rely on. And I think this year that's something to keep an eye on, especially for late inning matchups. And you can just throw a guy out there and just wreak havoc.
Yeah, like there's two sophomores I didn't get a chance to mention is Jacob Halford and Jacob Denise. Them two guys, if they're on out of the bullpen. Yeah. I mean, I saw Jacob Denise pitch last summer against the Salamanders, and he was lights out against them.
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. So basically, to summarize it, because assuming that you're not probably watching us or listening to us taking notes, is that basically we have a lot of guys that can easily make an impact this season for sure. I'm literally sitting here going, man, we've mentioned so many freaking names. It's unreal, which is awesome. I mean, again, it's a great problem to have that we're not just sitting here going, all right, here's 11 guys we have, and here's like 3 pitchers. Like we were saying, probably have 20 guys that could, probably see the field from the batting side, and then we have probably just as many guys on the pitching side that can make an impact as well. So it's a great problem to have. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, real quick. I just pulled up the roster. It's seven left-handed pitchers.
Nice.
So, assuming that they all, make appearances, that could be awesome.
Yeah.
Especially with your weekend starting rotation could be 3 righties.
Yeah.
It could be Whit, Sam, and Matt. So if you got all those guys starting, then you got lefties to come out of the pen right behind them, and then you bring guys in like Justin, and Baker Nelson's another guy. He's a 5th year. He's another guy that I think he'll be able to eat up some of those meaningful innings that we're talking about. So I think there's a lot of mix and match you can do on the pitching side that is advantageous with all the different options you have.
Absolutely.
And Win Scott too was another name we forgot to mention. Win Scott's another lefty that's pretty.
Add to the list, man. Add to the list for those taking notes. Add to the list. Win Scott, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
and then John Marala. Did we talk about him at all? Because
we did.
Yeah. Okay. I thought we might have mentioned him. Yeah, he's been there for a while and hasn't had a whole lot, but again, he's a big boy, I'm excited about this. I mean, like you said, we mentioned all these names, and I'm sure we've missed a few, but there's a lot to be excited for. Like it's not an empty cupboard by any stretch, and we still went out last year and won 36 games, I think it was. Like 38, 36.
It was high.
Remember.
We were 30, 36, and 21. We were 14, 36. 15 in conference.
Yeah. And here's something that we haven't talked about, and maybe we will. It was on your to talk list. Is we haven't really talked about coaching and Coach Avent. For anyone that's not paying attention at home, he's probably going to get to 1,000 career victories at state this year. He only needs 36, so that's something to I'm sure that the team's going to want to shoot for to get Coach his 1,000th win.
And especially too, more likely since it's going to be later in the season, so it's probably going to be during
Carolina.
Carolina during. Ooh, man, dude, that'd be.
Hold on, I'm pulling.
That'd be so sick.
Now let's talk schedule, right?
Let's talk schedule. So the one thing that really stood out to me is because one thing which I loved about last season's schedule was there was a lot of local road games. We were playing.
It could be Carolina.
Yeah, it could be Carolina. It very much could.
Sorry, I kind of got excited about that.
But playing at UNCG, playing at UNCW, playing. Oh man, who else? But pretty much every team in the state of North Carolina that has a team, we played at their stadium for at least one game. But this year, pretty much all of them are coming to Doak this year, which makes sense. But that's the one thing which I do kind of miss. Like I know we played at Elon, which is right down the road for me. So that would have been awesome for them to play again there this year. But let's kind of talk about, let's kind of break it up. So that early schedule wise, are there any teams in that non-conference schedule that maybe state fans, because obviously none of them really kind of stand out besides really Coastal Carolina. But anybody else, Justin, that is like, watch out for these guys?
The New Jersey team, they made a regional the year that we played at Arkansas. They were in that regional, in the Arkansas regional. So they've known to be some very good ball out there. So I don't even know
what that mascot is, Justin. What is this, Justin? What are you even talking about?
I have no idea what their mascot is.
Yeah.
The NJIT. I don't know. That sounds like the New Jersey Transit Authority or something like that. I don't even know what that is.
The New Jersey Institute of Technology.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with the South Harmon Institute of Technology.
Yeah. It's for all the kids that couldn't get into MIT. They went to New Jersey IT. So the one thing that's kind of an interesting storyline for me is Wagner. There's a Derek Wittenberg. I know we're talking baseball here, but he used to be the head basketball coach there. So I'm sure Witt will probably be at that. He's a big supporter still of Wagner, and he loves all sports anyway. So that's really Belmont. You have the Fighting Vince Gills. I don't know if anyone follows country music there, but he went to Belmont. He's they're probably one of their more famous alumni. Nothing to really get excited about, basically.
The Davidson game up at Charlotte, that should be a good one.
Yeah,
it's at Charlotte.
The UNCG game is it's not always a cakewalk for us, especially as a player. I've been in my fair share of games where it's it's a dogfight with those guys.
They're sneaky good, right?
You get on them early, and they just don't go away though. They just chip away. They always hang around. I mean, you go back to the COVID year. That's JT's infamous walk off to right center, and then the next day, season's canceled. So we had to walk them off. Then I think they beat us the year before at our place. That's never a tough game, or never an easy game. It's always a tough fight with them.
Wasn't one of them? And I'm trying to dig back in the brain dump back here. But wasn't those like one of those like a football score? It was like some ridiculous 17-13, 17-14, something insane like that. Yeah, I do remember that. But the one thing, as we're talking ACC schedule now, we didn't get any favors in the crossover games this year.
That's what I was just looking at. Yeah, especially to start the ACC schedule.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking predictions, we're playing 3 of the top 4 from the Coastal. By the way, baseball hasn't gotten rid of divisions, for anyone that doesn't know that, unlike football. They're still in Atlantic and Coastal. But the only favor we got was Pitt. The rest of them is pretty tough.
And Pitt's a dogfight too. You never know what you're going to get with that Pitt team.
Yeah.
I think the only bright side is you got UVA at home. Going to UVA and playing there is never fun, especially early in the year. It's frigid. It's 30 degrees and 15-mile-an-hour winds. It's never fun playing there. So playing at home against them is always good. Early in the year, maybe hopefully they haven't hit their stride yet either. So.
Well, that was exactly my point. Is that pretty much most of the guys we're playing on the road are not as tough home environment wise as the ones we're playing at home. Like we're playing at home against Florida State, at home against Clemson, at home against Louisville. That's really tough, to play at. So, at Miami's tough, but yeah.
But see, this is where the schedule makers have a little fun at your expense, right? You're like, we're going to Miami March 10th to the 12th. All right, man, bring your shades and your surfboards. And then it's Boston College March 24th through the 26th. It's like, bring your lip balm and your long johns. Like, come on, man.
That's true.
Did you ever play up there in that time of the year, Kent?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think we actually played there. It was early April. I've actually played there twice. I played there when their field was the parking lot for the football stadium. It's plywood walls around the outfield. It was like a little rec center area. It was not fun. There was plexiglass so you could look through the outfield wall from the bullpen. But their facilities now are nice. They got heated benches. The bullpen is a lot better than it was. It's down the lines. But like you said, you got that game, then you got UNCG at home, and then you got Louisville, and then you got ECU. That's a tough.
And then Wake.
And then Wake, at Wake.
In that home run ballpark.
Yeah.
So it's funny. Like we're gonna learn a lot about our team between March 28th and April 9th.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, you're gonna learn a lot. Yeah. No.
I mean, you'll have an idea. Don't get me wrong, but that's honestly that. I don't know. That in the May 4th through May 13th stretch is going to be pretty serious towards the end with Notre Dame and Carolina, two potential College World Series teams.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. Notre Dame and Florida State a little bit. Obviously since Link Jarrett switched going from Notre Dame to Florida State. It's going to be very interesting seeing both those teams play and the lineups, and seeing also just seeing Link Jarrett in a Florida State uniform is going to be
again.
Weird. Yeah. So yeah, again, exactly. So Justin, what else kind of stands out to you really about the schedule? Anything else that we haven't really mentioned yet?
Florida State's got good pitching. That Davidson game, like I mentioned earlier, down in Charlotte, that should be good because they got a couple of guys that are probably going to be in Power 5 conferences this fall, probably this coming fall, if they don't get picked up.
That's not a fun stretch either. You got Florida State at home, and then in Charlotte against Davidson, then Clemson at home and ECU at home. That little stretch right there is going to be big for the Atlantic, fighting for one of those top 2 seeds for the ACC tournament, especially with the way that Florida State is looking, like Justin just said. And then you never know with Clemson whether they're going to have a up or down year. So,
and And Clemson made a great coaching hire too from Michigan. So I mean, they gotten better too. I mean, there's no easy game in the ACC.
And for anyone that's not tracking, that Davidson game's at Truist, so that's kind of that'll be a cool environment probably for state.
Yeah. I still don't know if I could bring myself to go to that game, though. Still some old salt in the wounds there from the championship last year, but but it's all good. So
the one thing we haven't talked about the schedule yet is there's going to be 9 nationally televised games on the ESPN platforms, which, hey, give credit where credit's due. ESPN's trying to cover it a little bit more than they typically, they normally dump a lot of those to their conference ones, but it'll be good to get some more national exposure for the boys. So I'm excited about that for them. Talking schedule a little bit.
Yeah.
It'll help with recruiting too.
Right.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And I think it's kind of is, right? Because you're getting kids from Texas A&M, transfers, Oklahoma, Oregon. Is it Oregon? Well, I think we got one from Oregon and Oregon State, right?
Pitcher.
No, just Oregon.
Just Oregon. Okay. So just something kind of cool that those aren't players that we typically have gotten in the past. So just kind of something fun to track.
Yeah, it's a pretty good schedule. I mean, down the stretch. I mean, that's like another team we didn't mention, UNC Wilmington. They always give us a fit too, so you never know what you're going to get with that team too.
Yeah. Well, they're a baseball school. I mean, even though they do have a really good men's basketball team, they're all baseball. So they're big into it. I would know being we hosted the Elon UNCW conference championship, went to an Elon game, and UNCW fans were ruthless, man. So looking forward to it. But anyway,
I know this isn't a UNCW show, but I like their uniforms. They got nice uniforms. I their colors and their style. I like them.
Hey, good to know. As long as UNCW.
Random thoughts.
Yeah, random thoughts. But obviously, too, kind of wrapping this up. Obviously, coaching. I don't really think there's really too much that needs to be said besides, pretty much have everybody. Everybody's back. You got Chrysler, you got Coach Art, the man, the myth, the legend, Elliot Avent. You got Brett Austin still, on the assistant coach, which is awesome. So, in agreement, not much to be said there, really, for those guys.
Delangelo Giles is a volunteer assistant this year for the baseball team.
Yeah, nice.
And the one thing I was going to talk about that is, the new rule that's passed that we're going to be able to get some more coaches coming soon, get paid and all of that. So that's kind of an exciting thing coming for development of guys that want to get into the coaching ranks and, get a few dollars in their pocket while they try to work those ranks up. So that'll be exciting to follow.
Yeah.
I'm sure Kent's got his eye on it, right?
Oh yeah. Couple more years of playing, and then I'll be in there somewhere coaching.
Sweetness. Let's do it. All right. So just want to kind of wrap it up. So anything is it really fair at this point? Or not necessarily fair, but is there anything realistic in terms of giving predictions right now? Justin, Kent, Greg, what do y'all think? Just to me, I'm sitting here going, who the heck knows? There's just baseball in general is just so up and down. We won't know really much until we really get into the meat, but also just lineups wise, who the heck knows?
I think 40 wins is realistic.
Yeah.
And I think that should be the floor. I think this is a team that could probably win 45, 46. I don't think that's if things fall in the right place. I definitely predictions. I definitely could predict this team hosting a regional back to what we're accustomed to. Maybe making some noise. I don't anything other than that. I think you maybe getting a little wild, but I think those are all achievable goals.
Yeah. I think like you said, I think 40 wins is kind of the standard that we kind of shoot for as a program. So I think 40 wins is something where we talked about a little bit earlier where, is it a, I think it was in part one, is it a failed season? Is it terrible or not? I think, 40 wins is where you kind of benchmark yourself with. We had a pretty good season and we can kind of strive and build off of that. And after 40 wins, like you said, if you got 45, 46 wins, you're easily in contention for hosting. And I think that's, I would consider us sitting in the top 25 for majority of the year, if not the entirety of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say a regional.
Cool.
At least make a regional and hopefully a regional final maybe. But I say right now the goal should be a regional and see what happens with the ACC, because right now anybody can win the ACC right now. It's pretty much open race.
I would be nice to have, though, be able to know for certain that you have a chance to host a a super regional, which I don't think we've had that in a long time. So that'd be cool. But yeah, and then the last thing. So, can we beat LSU? That's all I need to know. Just no reason in particular, but just could we, take them? Maybe
they're everybody's darling to win it all. So I don't know. I
well,
know.
Tennessee was everybody's darling last year too.
That's true.
That's true.
I mean, you don't want to be ranked number 1 going into postseason.
I mean,
yeah,
you can ask
about that one.
I would say you can ask Arkansas, then you can ask another team in blue about basketball. So, again, it's not where you start; it's where you finish. So,
I like it.
You want to be in a position where you can make some noise. But the one thing is, polls, for like basketball and baseball, it's not like football where you need the polls, right? You just need to go out and win and. Let the record speak for themselves. So just go out and win ball games and put yourself in the conversation at the end of the season, and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, because I mean, look at for example, Ole Miss last year. I hate to say it that way. They came hot at the right time and they did what they needed to do once they made the postseason. Same thing. I hate to say it with Mississippi State. They played hot when they had their chance against the wall, and they did what they needed to do.
Yep. But they said, Justin, if we faced them, that they even felt like we had a good shot against them, okay?
Oh, I know.
So.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah. But all right, y'all. Well, I think we'll wrap that up right there. I think that, pretty much touched it from all bases. And again, I mean, I think we mentioned pretty much every single name we definitely tried to touch every name that you could possibly see this season for sure. But thank you. First of all, Kent, Justin, thank you both so much for doing this with us. Really do appreciate the time. And again, Justin Cooke, you can follow him on Twitter, and obviously, just keep an eye out for him. Say hey to him during the season. He'll be at pretty much every single Pac-9 game, But Kent, remind the fans again where you're going to be playing and how they can keep up with you again in case they missed it in part 1 or.
In Florence, Kentucky. It's 20 minutes south of Cincinnati, kind of like I talked about. All the games are on Flow Sports. So you gotta have a subscription. Unfortunately, they take an arm and a leg for a subscription, but if you want to catch a game on Flow Sports, it's on there. All of them are. So I'll be there. 96 games.
Sweet. Let's go. Sweetness. All right, y'all. So with that being said, so first game, February 18th, Friday, 3 p.m.
8 days.
I'm sorry. I got it wrong. Wrong schedule. I was about to say Evansville. Anyway, Friday, February 17th, Friday versus Wagner, 3 p.m. Definitely looking forward to that. And that's another thing, too, kind of side note. They definitely picked a rough weekend to do an opening weekend for, just with God, there's so much freaking going on that first weekend outside of baseball, but it's all good. We'll fit it where we can. But thank you all so much again for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. If you haven't again already, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can be notified on all your devices whenever we go live with any new NC State content. If you're excited for NC State baseball, hit that like button and give us a follow. Tuffy Talk now on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, go Pack, baby.